Hey everybody, welcome back to Marriage Therapy Radio. I'm your host, Zach Brittle, and I'm thrilled today to be bringing you a very special episode. Actually, this is part one in a 4-part series that I originally wanted to call So I Married an Axe Murderer. I have a specific kind of nostalgia for a 30-year-old movie that I love to quote. Let's see, what's one of them? She was a thief, you gotta believe. She stole my heart and my cat. That's So I Married an Axe Murderer. Instead, we're focusing on So I Married a Relationship Expert. We have 4 interviews coming up. This week, we're joined by absolute legends in the field of couples therapy, Dr. Ellyn Bader and Dr. Peter Pearson. They're the co-founders of the Couples Institute in Menlo Park, California. They've been working together for over 40 years to help couples build stronger, more connected relationships. I met Dr. Bader at a conference a little over a year ago, and I was impressed, which is to say, she made an impression on me with her theories of differentiation, as well as the overall developmental model of couples therapy, which, very briefly, helps partners grow individually while also deepening their connection as a couple. In today's interview, we'll dive into how Ellyn and Peter's relationship has evolved both personally and professionally. They explore some of the most common challenges that couples face. We learn how they've kept their own relationship thriving after decades of working and living together. Plus, they'll share some practical tips you can apply to your relationship right away. So, without further ado, let's get to the conversation. Here are Dr. Ellyn Bader and Dr. Peter Pearson. We want to just kind of say, hey, what's it like being married to a relationship specialist? And I'll start there, actually, because I'm not clear or sure if that's something that you guys knew before you came together, or did you meet like in high school and you were just like, a cheerleader and a football player?
You want to know the love story?
Yeah, like how did you guys become you guys?
One second. Are we on air? I mean, it's recording?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're talking now. Yeah.
We're jumping in. Okay.
How about this for starting off with humor? If I were to say we met on a jury and I acquitted Ellyn, now that would be funny, but not true.
Okay.
Okay.
I've heard wilder stories, believe it or not. But
We were not relationship specialists when we met. We met in the swamps of Louisiana, which that's a whole story. But I think the story of becoming relationship specialists is a little bit interesting because after we got married, we decided we wanted to do something together and we called it X.
okay.
We didn't know what X was. And so we looked at importing houseboats from India and
Starting a restaurant.
we looked at a lot of possibilities.
Wow.
Now, we were both therapists at the time, and I had been doing some work in Australia, and they were loving the work that I was doing. And then they asked Pete and I to come together and do a workshop on couples. And so on our way to Australia, we designed a 1-week workshop about couples therapy, which they absolutely...
On the way, the 14-hour flight, you're like, let's do this, deadline time.
We stopped in Bali for a week and actually dug in deeply to what we wanted to do. And that was super successful. And just gradually, we'd been doing more in the whole arena of couples work. And we ended up at the end of a year of saying, what is X? X became the Couples Institute.
Right on.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I have to dig in a little bit more to that because I am really curious why you wanted to do something together. I know that sounds like a no-brainer, but there's a lot of couples that I am with that they really try to keep their lives separate. And that is not something that they would even intentionally do is let's do something together. Like, well, we're going to live in the same house and have some kids. That's good enough, right? So why was it that you guys were motivated to really create X?
Because we were crazy.
Yeah, nice. But I will say this, Lauren, just to extend in what you're saying. My belief is the second toughest job in the world is to become a successful entrepreneur. Oh. I think the toughest job in the world is to be a successful entrepreneur with a successful marriage.
Yes.
Okay.
I agree. And if we can find those specialists out there, couples therapists that work with entrepreneurs, that work with their partners, that's the ticket right there.
Well, that is one of my specialties. I do. I do 2-day intensives for couples who work together, and particularly for the entrepreneur couples. So we have a whole body of work that we've developed for working with couples who work together.
And I'm creating a whole workshop just for entrepreneurs and their spouses. Where, I mean, if one person is an entrepreneur, the other one is involved whether they want to or not.
That's right. Yeah. Or, even if they're not involved, they're supporting big time,
Big
having
time.
to.
They get involved.
Wow.
You sound like you're living it, Laura.
I am. Yeah. My husband is, we call him fun employed, which basically means that he's a big dreamer. And, sometimes he has a paycheck that other people pay him. And sometimes we just, we drain the bank accounts waiting for his big ideas to come to fruition.
Oh, my God. I joked with Ellyn. I said, look, if we start working together, at least that gives me a 50-50 chance of becoming Employee of the Month.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
That's right. Whether you designate yourself the Employee of the Month or not.
We'd have secret ballots. And
You also told me you were going to have an idea every time you took a shower, too.
oh, God, that's the curse.
You overpromised and underdelivered.
Idea every time I take a shower,
Yeah, sometimes that idea can be that you need to trim your toenails and you're like, that's what I came up with. That's it today.
So you said that you decided to work together because you were crazy, but there was something unique about the two of you. I mean, it's not simply that you were crazy. Why did you decide that our destiny was X versus mine is Y and yours is Z, and we'll look forward to having dinner together in the evening time?
I think there's probably a bunch of reasons. One of them being that when we met, we had similar background and similar training. He lived in Louisiana. I lived in California. We met through a psychiatrist who knew both of us and who had done some training programs with both of us. So there was an initial tie there just in terms of our skill set and abilities. But also, I think we were also having a lot of fun together, and we thought, this is why I said we were crazy. We thought that it could be just all fun.
Well, it seems like you're having fun still.
I know, I'm enjoying it.
We do have a lot of fun. And like I said, also just sort of as we're spending that year, we were getting really great feedback from people with what we were presenting and putting out. Like they were saying things like, wow, this makes so much sense to me. I had no idea. So I think the combination of wanting to do something together, having similar training.
Yeah.
We both had PhDs. We didn't actually want to walk away from our PhDs. All of those things kind of played together.
So you're flying across the globe. You hang out in Bali for a week. You write up this workshop. How similar is what you're doing now to what you did then? I mean, what is it? What is the thing that people were giving you positive feedback about?
We are the founders of the developmental model of couples therapy, and what we were putting out then was understanding the stages of relationship and helping couples know how to go through those stages. And so that's still a foundation of our work, but people were feeling relieved, like we're not crazy, we're not sick, we're not pathological. And there are skills and capacities that we can master that help us move forward to a more engaged, more vital, more synergistic relationship. So, that was what we put out in that workshop. We had people be pretend couples for 5 days, and that was part of what they liked. And we worked with them as pretend couples. And over the years, we've developed all that work so much more than it was then. But the foundation is still the same.
Hey, I'll give you a 5-star tip if you're interested in writing.
Okay.
So decided to write a book on what we were teaching. It's called In Quest of the Mythical Mate. And we wrote it for therapists, but a lot of people in the public. But here's an easy way to write a book. Every Thursday morning, we got on the telephone with somebody who was a really good writer. And she would interview us. And we just made an outline. Here are the chapters we want to cover. And then every week she would interview us about that chapter. write it up, send it back to us for correction and editing, and we need more of this or more of that, then continue the interviews. She interviewed us. All we had to do was speak it, which is infinitely easier than trying to write it and craft it that way. So that book was written in the early 80s, and it's now in its 19th printing.
I love that.
22nd printing. And we did a second book called Tell Me No Lies, about being honest with compassion in a marriage, and we did it that way as well.
That's so
I am
smart.
telling you, if you want to write something that's longer than a blog, have somebody interview you and write it up.
Somebody who knows how to write.
Yes.
Does it count if, here's the funny part, is that Zach and I, we are actually in process of writing a book. It comes out in September. And Zach, you never told me that all I have to do is just get on the phone with you and talk at you.
I know.
And you would just write it for me. Unfortunately,
on purpose,
that's
I
not
didn't
how.
tell you that. Yeah.
I actually had to, on vacation, write it out.
What are you writing?
What are we
It is a
writing?
book that's ultimately a workbook. We have a strong bias toward curiosity and conversation, which is really, I think, if you had to ask me in my world, what I think is the number one skill for couples, it's curiosity, which is not simply just asking questions about your partner. It's really like being open to letting them surprise you and not assuming that you already know what they're going to say or how the fight's going to go or whatever. And so we had an opportunity to write a book that really just gives couples specific skills and specific conversations to lean into, just kind of maintaining curiosity and getting to know each other better. And so that is, Laura and I have two kind of complementary skill sets. I'm definitely more kind of literary, and I want to craft words and sentences, and I want to come up with really cool ideas. And Laura, you missed it earlier, but Peter was telling about how fortunate he feels to have adult children. So you can do what?
Communicate, collaborate, cooperate.
Oh my gosh, alliteration.
I love
Zach's
alliteration.
favorite.
I rely on it quite a bit. And Laura is really skilled in kind of like crafting exercises and crafting ideas and crafting practical ways for people to connect through tools and tactics. And so when we come together and when we teach together, those two things kind of collide, which I think is what's happening in the book. Like I get to like wax poetic about how different things mean different things. And she's leaning into, okay, here's the specific questions that you ask, or here are the specific activities that you can do. So it's kind of a catch-all, but it captures us, I think, which is the coolest part of the collaboration anyway.
Well, it's interesting you talk about curiosity, because that's a cornerstone when I work with couples.
Oh, phew.
I talk to them a lot about creating a team and the teamwork. And if you're going to have a great team to bring out the best in each other, then I think you need curiosity. Mm-hmm. That's a foundation. And I think you also need a lot of courage.
Okay.
And I define courage as it's the judgment that something is more important than your fears, your insecurities, your resentment, or your bad habits, and then take action.
Okay.
So until you make that judgment that something is more important than your insecurities, self-protections, you're not going to maintain curiosity.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can maintain curiosity and restraint under provocation, you will start to create a team that brings out the best in each other.
Can you talk a little bit more about restraint under provocation?
Yeah. Some people call it managing your impulses.
Okay.
Reactivity.
But here's why it's so damn hard to do. And I think James Baldwin, the writer, summed it up exactly, the challenge that all of us have when it comes to improving ourselves. In one statement, he captured the complexity and the contradictions of personal growth. He said, nothing is more desirable than to be released of an affliction, meaning our pain, et cetera, et cetera. Nothing is more desirable than to be released of an affliction, And nothing is more frightening than to be divested of a crutch, meaning our self-protections, our defenses. And that captures it. And it's why we work with individuals and couples. They have aspirations of making a better life in some area. And they are frightened to let go of those protective mechanisms that served them well growing up.
Right.
But I thought he captured it brilliantly in that study.
One other piece of an answer to that question you asked, Zach.
Of course.
Yeah.
See, I think a core thing with couples is a large majority of couples never get into what we call the differentiation stage, which has to do with managing differences well. And what happens so often is that you say whatever it is, and the other person takes it personally rather than being able to get curious or manage their defensiveness. And that is such a pivotal skill set and moment for all couples. Like, can I take a step back, not take what my partner is saying personally, and learn how to get curious?
I love that you brought that up, because when I saw you in December and you started to talk to us about this differentiation model, I was like, there's gold here. Like, I want you to say more about it. And I also have in my head this idea that you guys are really paying attention to the developmental stages. Surely curiosity and differentiation is a different skill at different parts of the relationship. So I'm interested to know how you're fleshing that out these days with your clients and with your couples.
Well, first of all, I'll start at the beginning. Too many couples never get past what we call the symbiotic stage, that stage of real enmeshment. And curiosity almost doesn't exist. Like, it exists at the beginning when two people are getting to know each other.
Yeah.
They ask all kinds of things, like, tell me about your family of origin, or tell me about your friends, or, there's curiosity. But once they get to know the basic superficial level of each other, curiosity goes away and they become much more reactive. So that's not even a factor. Usually by the time a couple comes to therapy, that's long gone.
Yeah.
We do a lot of work encouraging and supporting people getting into effective differentiation. And a big part of that is probably something similar to what you were saying earlier, Zach. A big part of it is learning how to be engaged when you differ. So it's learning how to manage the tension of being in any conversations where you want different things. And so it's learning, like the early differentiation process is learning how to internally self-reflect, to know what I think, to know what I feel, to know what I want, and be able to put that out. And then the other person being able to hold still, hold steady, and say, tell me more, or I want to hear about it, or and so that's the early differentiation of learning how to ask curious questions.
Zach, it really goes back to, when you're talking about curiosity, how important that is. I really think curiosity is the lifeblood of a relationship that grows. People will say, we're going to be together forever, which is a commitment to endure. And that's different than a commitment to grow together. It's very different. And I think without curiosity, you put a pretty low ceiling on developing your own capacity, your spouse's capacity, or growing together. So you just kind of live perpetually in kind of a low ceiling and adjust to it. So I focus a lot on inspiration in addition to teaching skills. And there's a quote that I absolutely love from Billy Mills, a Native American Indian who grew up on a reservation in the 50s. And you grew up on a reservation in the 50s, and that's a place where hope goes to die. And Billy Mills was, he was orphaned when he was an early teenager, but he loved to run. And before his father died, he said to Billy, and I love this quote, he said, "You have to look deeper, way below the anger, the hurt, the hate, the jealousy, the self-pity, way down deeper where the dreams lie. Find your dream. It is the pursuit of that dream that heals you.
Mm.
And Billy Mills loved to run, and he got a scholarship to go to the University of Kansas, and he was on the track team at the University of Kansas. And he made it to the Olympics, the 1964 Tokyo Olympics, and he won a gold medal. And he is the only American ever to win a gold medal in 10,000 meters. And only two other Americans have ever medaled at 10,000 meters in track and field. And when they got the gold medalists together for a big picture, after the picture, they told him to leave because he was an Indian. He was discriminated against, unbelievable, all along his life, which is why his quote is so important. You have to look beneath the hurt, the anger, the self-pity, and find your dream. So what I like to do is to help couples find and create their dream, and that gives them the reason to learn the skills to be a better partner. They have to have strong, compelling reasons to learn the skills. Otherwise, you're teaching skills and it bounces off. And they don't, under pressure, apply what they are learning. One of the things I like to do is to get couples to look at themselves, but that's not why they're in couples therapy. They're in couples therapy to get relief by having their partner change, most of them. And
yes,
the more
agreed.
Couple, the more relief they are wanting by their partner changing.
Yeah.
So I like to get both sides of that. And I'll give them an exercise. And I'll say, all right, you guys are walking along a beach. You see something shiny, you pick it up, and by golly, it's a magic lamp. You wonder if it's true. You rub the lamp, out pops a genie. And he says, I will give each of you one wish. But this genie puts parameters around this wish. And he says, each of you fill in the blank for this statement. I would be a better partner in this relationship if only my partner ... So you get one wish to describe how you would like your partner to be different or better. The second question is, I would be a better partner in this relationship if only I ... And then I say, each of you now, without affecting the other person, write out what would be the benefits if those wishes were granted. And so I'm looking for ways to inspire them to see a bigger picture that includes, because they really want to talk about their partner.
Of course.
And then I'll say, I tell you what, we're not going to talk about goals for being in therapy. I want to do a bigger picture of this so you guys can really step back and see a much bigger picture. Well, I'm going to ask you guys to create a 40-year plan for your marriage and your life. And I don't care. I'll say to them, I don't care how old you are. I still want you to develop what a 40-year plan would look like. And then I'll say to some of them anyway, because most of the time I don't want them to know how old I am. I'll say, look, at the age of 80, I'm trying to still figure out 40-year plans for my life and our marriage. Because it forces you to think bigger and different.
Sure.
Take a long view. If you're going to be together for 40 years, and if you could do one thing where you absolutely knew you would not fail, what part of the plan would that be? If you knew you would not fail, what would you attempt?
Yeah.
What I'm doing is looking for ways of expanding the picture. Beyond saying, look, my partner is, I'll give you a clue. When Ellyn and I first started living together, when it comes to clutter, it soon became apparent that I have a much higher tolerance for visual disarray.
That's the nicest way of putting it.
Like messes.
And so in addition, I say, I want to go beyond that. Because just solving problems doesn't bring happiness. It brings relief. Solving problems brings relief because you're looking at what has happened and how to fix it. I want to go beyond that. What excites your imagination about being together? That's what I want us to talk about in addition to solving some of these problems.
It sounds like you're giving them the why. I did a little bit of research ahead of time, but I'm wondering, is this part of your first session that you're coaching therapists around, of rather than getting stuck on the telling on each other in that very first session with each other, you're saying, let's put that on the shelf long enough to be able to envision and inspire what you're actually chasing in this relationship from a dream perspective.
I'm glad you asked that, because I do a different first session than most therapists. First of all, I send out a big document which starts to change their attitude about change. And at the bottom of that document, I had 3 questions. I'll say, I would like you to describe the kind of marriage that makes you glad to be together at the end of the day. What does that look like? So that gives us a target. And then I'll say, why is that marriage important? Because that gets at the values, the interests, and your priorities. And then I asked the third question is, what would be required of me? Not my partner, that's way too easy, but what would be required of me to create the kind of marriage I want to be in? So I want them to go down that path instead of rehearsing bad behavior stories about their partner.
Right.
Then when we meet the first time, they and believe me, they want to get the story out about what their partner does that bug them. So I'll say, look, we're going to start a little bit different than most therapists do. Here's what I mean. It's a diagnostic question. I want to know how well you guys have been listening to each other. And so here's what I mean. I'm going to say, Terry, what do you think the major complaints your partner has about you? And then here you go, oh God, okay. And they want to prove they're a good listener. So
they tell on themselves.
I say this and I say,
brilliant.
Is there anything else? Well, yeah, there's this too.
Yeah.
And then I say, look, how confident are you? I'm good because I'm going to ask your partner if you nailed it or not. How confident are you on a 1 to 10 scale to say you nailed it? And they go, oh God. Okay, well, I think it's about an 8, but I want to add one more. And then I'll say to the partner, how did they do? Oh, no, I'll say, shall we ask your partner how you did? They always say yes. And so now I get an idea of what this person is doing in the marriage that's totally ineffective.
Right.
They go, yeah, let's check it out. And the partner, most of the time, they'll say, wow, that's pretty good. That's good. I'd give them about an 8 on that out of 10. And then I'll say, guess what? Your partner has been listening to you. Now, the reason that you're here is they haven't been doing that much about it. But the good news, they have been listening. Is there any part of you that could express some appreciation to your spouse for listening to you? And they go, well, yeah, I didn't think you were listening at all. Thank you for listening. And then I reverse it. So what I have then after a handful of minutes are what the major complaints are. Nobody's feeling bad. Each person feels acknowledged for being a good listener. And we get that out of the way. So now I have an overview without feeling depressed. Like, let me tell you what they're doing.
Yeah.
And God, after 20 minutes of that, I'm telling you, all of us are feeling depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And all you have to do is to get that depression is to say the common question therapists ask, which is, why are you here? Or what brings you here? And they'll tell you, you know why I'm here? It's because they ... And then we're all feeling like crap.
Yeah.
So can I say something?
Yeah.
The most undertrained skill for couples therapists is the first session.
Yeah. I want to hear you talk about it. You guys definitely have a different energy, the two of you. And, Peter obviously has a higher tolerance for visual disarray. But I would imagine your first session, Ellyn, is different, or it's how do you do it?
Well, first of all, let me say, I've been starting recently. I can answer that for like a big chunk of my career when it was, but also more recently, I've been training therapists to do mini intensives for the first session, so that the first session is really either 3 or 4 hours long. And couples are told, hey, too often therapy starts with each of you coming in and sharing your complaints, and then the 50 minutes is up and you go home feeling worse than when you came in. That's not how I want to start. And in fact, there's both some significant education that can make a difference, and also the beginning looking at certain skill sets that can make a difference. So what I'm suggesting the therapists do, or when I'm talking to a couple, is let's start you off with a strong foundation for the work ahead, instead of starting off in a way that's going to be depressing and discouraging.
Yeah.
And so
I have to. Oh, go ahead. I'm just, I'm so antsy to ask a question, but I'm going to listen.
Go ahead. I'll fit it into what I was going to say. Go ahead.
You were talking about mini intensives, and it just popped into my head that I read an article of a Bend entrepreneur. Interesting enough, you know who I'm talking about, which is not a secret because they wrote an article about it and they were very open. And now,
article.
Yeah,
must have been. Yeah, it was sent to me by about 4 people because they know that we do intensives. They know that we are fans of your work. They know that we golf at Tethrow. We're members at Tethrow Golf Club. So everything collided. And so I got this article sent to me from a bunch of different directions. And now, like a month later, here you are. So I'm just wondering, like, what is it that you're finding is helpful with intensives? If couples are listening to this and they're thinking, man, I've got so many avenues. I could do a workshop. I could read a book. I could listen to a podcast. I could do individual therapy, couples therapy, or an intensive. What's the case for intensives?
Well, so, we were just talking about mini intensives, which is a little different than a 2-day intensive.
Okay.
I mean, the article was about the 2-day intensives. And to me, the 2-day intensives are really fantastic for a couple of different situations. One being the article you read was an entrepreneur couple who came to me for an entrepreneur couples intensive. So, that has built into it things that are very specific for couples who work together.
Got it.
And when couples work together, usually the work takes over their whole lives.
Yeah.
They lose their passion. They lose their connection. They lose, all the things that brought them together. So we've developed a thing where there's like 6 skills that go into a couples intensive. And they go with the basically the word candor. So one is commitment. What's your commitment to the marriage? What's your commitment to the business? And sometimes those are very, very different. So that is part of what gets out in the open early. They have to really learn how to acknowledge and appreciate each other significantly, more so than a couple who are not working together. And real effort needs to go into that. Then there's a whole piece around negotiation, a whole part around how to make decisions, using different decision-making capacities. And then there's the ownership of being accountable for what you say you're going to do and like really getting behind that. So anyway, that's a specific group of skill sets for
entrepreneurs.
Yeah. I mean, the last one is roles and responsibilities. But anyway.
Thank you. I was on the edge of my seat with the R. I was like, CANDOR.
You pay attention to detail.
Wow.
Not usually, you guys. I'm focusing today. Our audience knows I don't pay attention to detail.
But the mini intensive.
Yes.
We got me and Laura got in a little bit of a fight yesterday because one of us wasn't paying attention to detail and we disagreed about which one of us it was.
We're like an entrepreneur couple. We're just not married to each other.
Well, that's a whole interesting other question, which is how do your spouses deal with, because you guys have a pretty intense, close relationship.
Yeah,
we do. I will be really honest. I was frustrated with Zach. I told my husband was listening with his problem solving ears. And he said, do you want for me to call Zach and bitch him out? And I said, no, I can handle this myself. So, I mean, my husband was taking my side, which is great. That's a good step, but he was also trying to problem solve. But I don't know. I mean, I think our spouses, they should talk. They should talk to each other, actually.
Hey, listen, I'll give you a communication tip that
Okay.
if you apply it on a regular basis, but it's hard to do. It's hard to remember it under pressure, or under stress or tension. But I'll give you 3 questions. And if you ask these 3 questions, you will turn an argument into a discussion.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's do
3
it.
questions. The first one is somebody has to have the wherewithal to remember the first question to the partner and say this. What's the main concern or point you would like me to understand?
Oof.
And
Okay.
so that gets them focused instead of like dropping a group of marbles on the floor and just all over. And furthermore, da-da-da. So if you say, what's the main point or concern you would like me to understand, then you got to focus, really. And because you asked the question, it makes it easier for them to focus and kind of organize their scattered complaints.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The second question is, why is it important for you that I understand this? That gets at their values, their interests, their priorities, their motivation, their intention for bringing this up. So that it goes, now we're going to ask one that is outside of their internal psyche. The third question is, and they're waiting for this one, which is, what can I do to help make this a good discussion for you? And they go, well, okay, going back to what you were saying, Laura, well, I just want you to listen, okay?
Yes.
Don't try to fix anything. Just let me vent.
Yep.
Or I want to brainstorm after I express ... So by saying, okay, now the listener knows what to do. Half the time they have no clue. So they plunge in, try to fix it, but they're trying to get relief from their tension in this. So they jump in for solutions right away. So if you ask those 3 questions, what's the main point or concern you would like me to understand? Why is that important? And what can I do to help make this a good discussion for you? And if they turn it around and then they ask their partner those same 3 questions, now you have the possibility of more collaboration.
Well, you probably forgot what you were arguing about at that point, too.
Right?
Well, I have a shorthand way of saying a piece of what you said, which is I tell partners to when they start something, to tell their partner, do you want to be heard, hugged, or helped?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Speaking of alliteration.
Yeah. No, I love it.
I would love to go back to one more thing on the mini intensives, because
Yes, please.
to me, that's like, there are so many couples who come to therapy are the fighting, hostile couples.
Mm-hmm.
And those mini intensives are designed really clearly to say to the couple, this is not this next 3 or 4 hours, we are not getting into any of your issues, any of your problems. This is really designed completely to lay a strong foundation. And so in that foundation, couples are taught about the stages. They're taught about why differentiation matters and what it looks like. They're taught to understand their brain and how they get triggered, and why practice is absolutely essential. Like if couples won't practice new behavior outside of sessions, they're wasting their money and their time.
Yeah.
The therapist has a lot of time to connect with each of them, but to say, look, this is like a bare bones beginning that we can get on the same page. The inspiration part that Pete was talking about is really important, and also this foundation is where we're going to work from. And there's a wonderful video that's on YouTube that ends these mini intensives, which is a video called The Backwards Bike.
Okay.
If you haven't seen it, you got to watch it.
Okay.
We'll send you a link if you want.
I'll watch it. No, I'm going to watch it in 5 minutes.
Yeah, just Google Backwards Bike. It is a fabulous video for couples, because what the guy demonstrates is his his welding business partners design a bike where everything is opposite of what he does routinely. So we all know how to ride a bike and turn the handlebars and go one way. Well, when he turns the handlebars, it goes the other way.
Yeah.
So he demonstrates how long it takes from the neuroplasticity point of view to change so he can ride a backwards bike, and then shows his son, who's young, who can master it much, much faster. But it just drives home in a beautiful, fun, engaging way why practice matters, and that you can change the brain wiring, but you can't do it with one attempt or two attempts.
Oof.
I mean,
Man, I love that.
It's really the advantage of having longer sessions. You know, when people come to my office, we could have sessions that were poignant, touching, insightful, emotional. Oh my God, I found my spouse finally after all these years. I've been in love again. And when they leave the office, by the time they get to the third stoplight, they've forgotten to what we've covered.
100%.
Yeah.
So by having longer sessions, either 4 hours or 2 days, you get a chance to keep building on what you're learning and time to practice those skills. We do it on Zoom, and they hang up and they go take care of crying kids, running errands, picking them up after school, and it dissipates because the information just goes into the short-term memory and prefrontal cortex, and then it disappears. And it is, and without practicing, you can't remember what to say under pressure or stress.
Yeah.
I'll give you an extreme, because I have had like 6 or 8 Army Rangers or Navy SEALs in my practice.
Cool.
And the main complaint, this surprised the hell out of me, the wives had, is that they can't depend on their husbands. And I say, get out of here. Their whole military career is being dependable. And they say, yeah. I will say, did you remember to pick up the medicine on the way? Oh, I forgot. Well, did you drop off the laundry? Oh, I forgot. You know? And it's because these guys never thought of their marriage as being a team. And I would think when you train like a SEAL under pressure, you could apply these skills. No. My son-in-law was a medical officer in the Air Force, and he helped train Navy SEALs. Sure. And they asked him to go on the mission when they took out bin Laden. And when I said, so Todd, when you and Tammy get into an argument, I assume you can apply all the communication skills because you know what it's like under pressure to think clearly. And Tammy says, no, we get into an argument and I could rattle him.
Yeah. Yeah. What do they call that? It's like a context dependent skill set, or it's, I have a lot of clients where I make the same assumption that they are, like they're surgeons. And so their job is to be able to manage their nervous system, to be able to have steady hands. But then the moment they come home and there's a crying baby and a, partner that's like, it goes out the window. It blows my mind.
Totally. So I'll do a podcast with Todd. Say, so Todd, how come you struggle with learning what you know on the home front?
I have a client who is a surgeon, and his wife's primary complaint is that he can't cut a mango.
Shut up. Seriously?
So I'm aware of
awesome.
I'm aware of time, and I want to get one more question in here. I want you to take your. You guys have been married how long?
Oh, geez.
We're going to out him.
82.
82.
All right. So take your therapist hat off for a second. Just put your partner hat on and tell me, I don't want the shtick. How did you guys make it work?
We're still working at it.
Is that the answer?
Well,
we're still working at it.
Well, you're always working at it. That's one thing. But I'll tell you, I think the clutter issue that he alluded to was a big issue for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have had, work that and rework it. And
it's better.
We find one of the best solutions we ever made was we gave him for his office the room that was in the farthest back of the house, and the doors
out of sight, out of mind.
I don't go into that room.
Good.
Here's the thing about your question, which is it kind of surprised us until we live it. as soon as you, quote, solve one problem, it makes available a whole new set of problems to deal with.
Ta-da!
You're not available for even consideration when you're still on the first rung of the ladder.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it never ends. Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know that Zach's wife gave him one side of the bed? It's the bed the side of the bed that's closest to the wall where he gets to keep his crap so that when she walks in the door, she doesn't have to see it, but he gets his pile up.
I have about 20 square feet of house that I can put anything I want into it, as long as the rest of the house is just fine.
Oh my God, that's creative.
You should get Pete to talk to her. He gets more space than that.
He gets more square footage. He's earned it. Zach might grow into more space.
Well, listen, I want to thank you guys for giving us your time this morning. I know you have to jet. Tell us a little bit about how, if people are intrigued and they want to know more about your work and how to find you, where do I point them? Where do they go?
So for couples, it would be couplesinstitute.com. And then, and that's probably the best place for anybody. We also have a training site. I do a lot of training of therapists all over the world, and that's couplesinstitutetraining.com.
But
I'm gonna check that out for sure.
Couplesinstitute.com will take you to the basic page, couplesinstitute.com.
Cool. I also,
that's awesome.
A quick thing about that, there's a thing called the Starter Series on the homepage, and there's a free video where we talk about the stages, and that might interest some of the people based on some of the things we've been talking about.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey,
Love
and thank you guys for the invite, for making this an easy, effortless, and enjoyable conversation.
Easy, effortless, and enjoyable.
I heard it too.
You're welcome.
I think you're my spirit animal. Your energy is so contagious. I am like starting my day off with a pep in my step. That's great. All right. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you both. Thank you. And good luck in your future endeavors.
So there it is, episode 1 of So I Married a Relationship Expert. In episode 2, we'll be talking to Harville Hendricks and Helen LaKelly Hunt. They are pioneers in the field of couples therapy. They are founders of what's called Imago Therapy. Our conversation with them was delightful. I think you'll dig it. So thanks for joining us today, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.